I'll start if you like, Sheila. Just can we just clarify exactly your position with the Eagles? Has there been a change since the Derby? Have you spoken to the CEO or the chairman? Can you just...
That's 3 questions, Barra.
Yeah,
Which one would you like me to answer?
Just what is your situation at the moment at the club?
No, it hasn't changed. No. I mean, there's obviously things get reported. I don't read a lot, so my position hasn't changed. It's just that this time of year we're trying to get a bit of clarity about the future, I suppose, is where we're at. I think the board are planning to meet at the end of the season. So, I think what's happened the last few days was more about, we're doing a lot of planning at the moment. So there's a lot of recruiting, with staff, list management, coaching, all that sort of stuff. And I'm at the top of that. So working through all that's important and making sure there's clarity about the role. So that's where that's at. In terms of when that gets decided, it's out of my hands. And I'm not stamping my feet, but getting some clarity around that's what I'm looking for.
Do you accept that your position is now uncertain, that there's been a shift in that?
I haven't thought about it like that, but I'm assuming when you have a performance like we did on the weekend, there's questions asked. So that's not for me to assume. But my role hasn't changed and my purpose hasn't changed. It's just there's going to be some ups and downs. So, but it's big. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than the weekend or the week before or this week. There's a lot of work to do. So once we get clarity around that, we'll move forward.
Have you been given any clarity, Adam?
No, I haven't asked for that clarity today. It's more, when are they going to meet and decide it all? So like I said, I'm not stamping my feet, but there's a lot of things we've got to do. So I'm not angry. It's not. There's no split. It's just you guys are a bit more involved than perhaps I would have liked.
The fact that you're needing clarity, does that indicate that your confidence in their confidence in you has changed? you felt like mid-season you were talking like you were certain that you'd be retained next year.
Yeah. It's just this time of year, Craig. Yeah, it's this time of year you need probably the certainty of it all because you're making big decisions. So that's all it is, and totally understand where the club is at with it. So I'm not lacking any confidence or it's just a bit of direction for what we're doing going forward.
How are you emotionally about all this?
I'm okay, mate. Yeah, it's okay. It's the job. Yeah. So I said this last night. I reckon 2 years ago I signed on for 4 years, knowing we're going to go through this. So I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed we're not working our way through this a little bit quicker. But through circumstance and where we're at, I'm not overly surprised we're working through this. So, and we're only really at the start. There's a bit of work to do.
So you want to stay the course, that's what you're saying. You want to stay.
Well, that's what I signed for. So nothing's changed. But I do understand that decisions are made and changes happen sometimes. So I'm not in
so it's
despair.
Not coming from you. You're not starting to say, look, maybe am I?
No. I'm staying the course. But like I said, it's mentally I'm fine. It's all good. It's going to be a tough one this week. We've got the Bulldogs who are trying to hold on for top 8 and we're dealing with all this stuff. So trying to get our players in the right headspace, that's really important as well. So it's not just about today. It's bigger than that.
Have they at least given you a time frame for when you will get clarity?
No.
Your position at the minute, Adam, in terms of that planning going forward, have you sort of had to remove yourself from it, or as the club said, just give it some fresh air or a bit of a break at the minute so you're not...
No.
Where's it? How hands-on or involved are you in that situation?
Yeah, absolutely hands-on. So, we had a 2.5-hour meeting on list management 2 nights ago. So nothing's changed in that space. But once we get clarity about it, the future, then, we can double down or we can pull back a bit, obviously.
Do you understand that it's a bit of an unusual sort of set of circumstances given the fact that you are contracted for another 2 years?
It's not unusual. No, not when we're at. So I totally understand that there may be questions asked because it's our position and you don't want to look at things in isolation from game to game, but from the weekend it was a really disappointing performance. So getting the full clarity is important. There's not much more I can say about it. I mean, I'm being as honest as I can.
Just in terms of those discussions with the board, is that something you're hoping to get done sooner rather than later, or are you happy for it to hold off?
That's their call. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, there's not much more I can say. It's as honest as I can be.
Adam, they've talked and they've briefed people, I think, about sweeping changes to the football department, as many as 5, and they've been described as significant changes.
Who's that?
West Coast people have briefed stakeholders on that. Are you aware of that?
You tell me who.
No, I can't. But
well, come on, mate.
But no, my understanding is that there's been a briefing where people have been told that there'll be 5 significant changes in the football department.
No,
that doesn't necessarily mean you.
I can't. I don't know what you're saying.
You're not aware of that?
Well, no, because I don't know what you're talking about. There's changes already happened in our department that we're looking to replace, if that's what you're alluding to. So I'm not getting caught up in that. There's changes every year. There's changes when you win a premiership. So we're going through a lot of change with our list. That's definitely happening. And then there's other parts of our department that we're regenerating, and that's already started. I think we're pretty clear on all that. So
you've been involved in that planning process?
Yeah, of course. Yep, that's not happening tomorrow. That happened 7 weeks ago. So, and it happened probably last year as well. So this happens every year. It's just that at the moment there's a lot going on. So we just need to work through it with some clarity.
Your players have seen you guys retire and the news swirling around you. What have you said to them to try to keep them really
switched on? Well, I spoke about pressure yesterday and how it's a privilege and life's pretty boring without it. So trying to endure and get through situations like this, not talking about just me, but just everyone, you look back on it with good resilience in a couple of years or whenever it turns, that's what you learn from. So this is all part of it. And whether it's sustained or not, it doesn't really matter. It's our players working through this, in particular our younger players. They'll reflect on these times when we're having more success, and that'll be part of their journey.
Adam, Duff reported yesterday that the Eagles have reached out to other coaches. How does that make you feel, considering that you're still contracted and you have no clarity around your job at the moment?
Yeah, I didn't read Duff's article. Sorry, mate, I didn't read your article. So that's if I listened and reported on every bit of speculation, I would be doing my head in, and I'm not doing my head in.
Can I just ask about your relationship with Trevor Nisbet? Is it deteriorating, or are you guys still on the same page? Are you united as a coach and CEO?
I'm really tight with Niz. Yeah, I've got nothing but appreciation for what he's done for me and for the footy club. And I know the footy department is working through some pretty big and heavy issues, but the club in itself and what they've achieved in my time here has been outstanding. And he's the alpha male. He's the guy who's been leading the whole thing. So I'm really surprised when there's questions asked about Trev and what he's done for us and what he'll continue to do. So we're absolutely fine.
And are you confident that the next 2 weeks will play a role in whether or not you remain here? Like the board hasn't made up its mind?
Yeah, well, that's the thing I sort of spoke about earlier, and we probably need to move on at some stage today. But it's bigger than this week or last week. What we're working through is not like the Bulldogs right now. They're all about finals, holding on to the top 8. Let's go. We're working towards something probably it's a longer term. So whether a win or not comes this week, it won't really determine, I don't think, my role. But there's a bigger picture at play. So we're looking at the future, and we're transitioning from the past.
I feel like this job sucks for coaches when they're in your position, right?
No, we're not forced to do this job.
I know, so why would you want to continue doing this job in
because that's what I signed up for, and it's. I told you before that we need to move on. I've been as kind as I could possibly be. I told you that 2 years ago I signed on for this. I knew this was coming, so it's all part of it. So it's not my first rodeo. I've been in the industry for since I was 17. So there's not a lot I haven't seen. This is new, but I'm not surprised.
Just on the players, have you sought assurance from the playing group that
no?
Can we preempt Sunday because it's going to start another round? What can you expect? Can you really actually be competitive given this environment?
Absolutely, yeah. We need to be better than last week. The first 15 minutes we looked really up for the fight, and then we didn't respond at all. And as bad as we've been throughout the year, there's been games where we've responded. I think the Carlton game a few weeks ago, we were really poor in the first quarter and a half, and we win the second half. We showed a bit of resilience, and that was probably the most disappointing part about the weekend, despite the fact it was a derby, it was a home game. 50,000, but there wasn't a response, and we really need that this week.
Is that
Has
on?
Oscar played?
I saw him out there this morning, so he's good to go. He was a bit crook yesterday, so he missed training, but his arm's fine.
He doesn't sublux a lot and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, what's a sublux, mate?
Pops out his shoulder. And
Yeah, he's going to need a break at the end of the year for sure. So we got to teach him how to land properly. So he's
bit of judo.
Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do.
When you come specific, you can do to change the unanswered goals issues that you've been having this year.
Not yes and no. There's always things you can do. That's been a real issue for our side, is dealing with momentum. And I'd park the weekend, like whatever that was in a row. That's that's unacceptable. But for the most part, we're working on those quarters where we can't stop the run on. And I reckon there's been for the last 7 weeks, there's been some really good quarters and halves there. We just haven't put a full game together. The North game and the Essendon game were the two ones were probably our most consistent, and no surprise the scoreboard's a bit closer.
How have you seen the response from the players on the track this week after the derby? How much ownership have they taken of that performance?
Oh, look, it's we got a longer break this week so we can train properly. So I mean, hopefully they're looking to respond. I think they will. But like I said, it's a lot on the line for the Bulldogs as well. I think we're 15-1, so I think it's going to be a pretty big challenge. But it'll be, like I said, in the future they should be look back in these last 3 or 4 rounds and try and get something out of it.
Tom Cole, will he be okay for a full game this weekend?
Yeah, I think so. The guys that went off or looked like they were struggling have all pulled up pretty well. And the last thing I want to do is roll out players that aren't ready to play, just to try and be more competitive. So we need to look after our players as well. So yeah, there's a few sore guys, a few crook guys, but I think that's the same at every club.
Is Bailey Williams getting tired last 2 weeks?
Probably. Yeah, it's been a long year for him. I think he's still working through, his best version, and he's still pretty young. So I think one day you might end up seeing him as a forward that pinch hits in the ruck. So he's learnt so much about the ruck craft, but going against the A grade as the competition, it's a pretty big ask for him, and I think we've probably got the All-Australian this week, so it's going to be another big challenge.
So do you need another one, do you think, from a list management perspective?
Well, those are the things that we need to talk about. So that, I'm not going to talk about it here, but that's the conversations we're having at the moment. About what's the draft look like? What's trade period look like? Who's available? How do we go about it? They're not done. These things don't happen at the end of September. They happen, it was probably late now to be talking about that stuff. So we'll work through all that.
Is the club interested in Brodie Grundy? Would you have interest in Brodie Grundy? Was he the wrong age?
I'm not going to talk about our list management. To you, Duff.
Simo, do you sort of transition to a development coach now? Is that what happens?
I think we're a development club, yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first got here, that's definitely was our focus, and we went through. Obviously the 18 was our year, but we played in the grand final in 15, so we've been up for a while, going really hard at development. How you structure your staff's really important around this phase. I think, we'll go from being mid-range to one of the youngest really quick. So the staffing is important about what that looks like with where you allocate your coaches, and we're definitely going to double down on development. We already have.
And you chase the best development coach you can find to add to your squad or something like that?
We might already have it.
Yeah.
No, we'll work through all that. That's obviously something I'm not going to comment on here, but that we've got some tremendous coaches who have found it really challenging this year and the last couple of years due to our circumstances, as well as availability and injuries and COVID last year. So all those things have been pretty tough for our coaches to get the best out of our players, but that's our challenge.
Adam, could you do another year like this with the constant speculation if you are going to be a rebuilding club, which means unfavourable win-loss ratios and bad losses and that sort of thing?
That's like I said, Duff, that's what you sign up for. If I didn't want to go through this, I would have pulled the pin a couple of years ago. So it's not really in my nature to quit, and especially when you know what's coming. So yeah, it's more trying to educate you guys a little bit about where we're at, understanding there's going to be bad losses and some tremendous victories coming up. But when the bad losses happen, and they happen more than once, you've got every right to ask questions, but it's sort of part of the growth now.
Could it get worse before it gets better next year?
Win one game? Maybe. I don't. I hope not. I think, the health of our list is really important. It's probably part of our priorities to get that right. We just haven't had the full list available. So it's a bit hard to judge the coaching side of things, and it's all part of it. And I'm at the top of the tree in terms of the department. So getting the health and fitness of our players, we just haven't got that right. That's no one's fault, one person's fault. It's the collective. So we've got to get that right, and then we've got to get the best out of our players.
You talked earlier about you can turn over like 7 or 8 players, a quarter of your list in an off season. Do you have a number roughly that you will be looking to turn over? You obviously got.
It won't be much different than every year, really. Every year it's between 7 and 10. Is that right? So it takes you 2 or 3 years, and suddenly the list is completely different. So yeah, we've hit the draft the last 2 years. So we hit it again, and all of a sudden there's, I don't know, we've got 25 players under 20. So it'll be pretty quick, but getting the players in and then getting them right and developing them and getting some games into these guys. I mean, what do we had this year? We had 3 Rising Star nominations, and I don't know how many before that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years, but that's the type of thing we're going to be chasing.